The logic model is a really helpful tool that will help you revisit your theory of change and think about how you're going to operationalize it and set your success metrics. I have to confess, I do have a love-hate relationship with the logframe, which is one type of logic model. I'm going to walk you through what logic model means, what logframe is all about, and then when you're done with it, you can tell me if you have a love or hate or love-hate relationship with it. So, if you revisit the theory of change that you drafted in Chapter 4, you'll see that you've already specified the immediate and long-term effects of your endeavor. Of course, they may have changed by now as you've iterated your idea, so this is a chance to revisit it. Now, the theory of change is what we call a logic model. The general definition of a logic model is that it's a planning tool that helps you describe or visualize your pathway from actions to outcomes. There are many different types of logic models. So the theory of change is a logic model that helps you link your idea to the social challenge you set out to tackle and test the underlying assumptions. That's why we did it during the ideation module. You may have seen other logic models, such as this one, which helps you link the desired outcome to a set of measurable outputs you'll need to produce to create that outcome, and the activities and inputs you'll need to produce those outputs. So this is a general logic model that people sometimes call the theory of change, actually, but we use a different template for theory of change in this course. So the logic model we're going to talk about right now is a little bit different. It's called the logframe, and it's short for logical framework. It's slightly more advanced and detailed than the more general one we just talked about, and it helps you really operationalize your theory of change. I used it a lot in my organization, Al-Fanar, Venture Philanthropy, and that's why I have a love-hate relationship. The things I hate about it is that it forces you to think in so much details and plan exactly how you're going to get to the outcomes, which some social entrepreneurs don't like because you don't always know. Sometimes you just have to start and see how it goes. What I love about it is that it helps you work backwards from your goals and think and really sets the stage for the business model in terms of like how much is this going to cost and things like that. So it goes really well hand in hand with the business canvas that we just covered. But this one is more focused on setting your success metrics. So what I recommend in terms of reconciling this love-hate dynamic is that it's good to just try out a log frame. It'll help you think about lots of things you wouldn't otherwise think about. And then it's okay to tweak it and revisit it as you go along. It's not written in stone. Even with our investees at Al-Fanar, the social enterprises we supported through venture philanthropy, we would revisit the log frame and say like, okay, we're actually changing the activities. We're actually changing the target as we proceeded in the endeavor and new data came to light. So at this stage, before you get started, here's how you would go about filling out your log frame. And this is going to take a couple of hours. It's really as important as your initial brainstorming phase. So make sure to try and do it with others, with a team, to discuss the different aspects. So at the very top, you write out your goal. This is the overarching goal, right? Like kind of the mission of your organization. If you can ask why after you write down the goal, then that's not your goal. You keep asking why until you can't anymore. That's your ultimate goal. And then this is not something you can achieve very directly or measure very directly, right? It's so multifaceted and complex. So you break down the goal into SMART objectives, like mini goals. And objectives are things that are more measurable, like when you take a course. And, my goal is to activate the social change agent in you. But then I have learning objectives that I can actually measure through the exercises that you do. So SMART objectives means specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time-bound. So it's a way to break down the larger goal into mini goals that are more realistic, measurable, specific, and time-bound. So you might have one objective for your endeavor, And you might have multiple objectives, but you don't want to have too many. Like in many of the log frames I've filled out, it's been like, maximum 3 objectives. So when we talk about the case study for this week with Sufra, I'll try to go through the log frame with you a little bit and talk about the different goals and objectives and things like that. So you have your overarching goal, then you break it down into objectives, and then each objective is going to have measurable outputs that you need to produce to reach that objective. And it's going to have specific activities you need to conduct to produce those outputs. And then you're going to break out all the activities into their cost and how long it will take to do them, so that you've really operationalized your theory of change and you have a blueprint for implementing your endeavor. And then in the last column, you specify the indicators you're going to use, and those are your success metrics. And you put a target for each one. You write the baseline and the target. Now, these indicators could be related to your objectives, the long-term outcomes, like the big change you're trying to create, or they could be related to your outcomes and your activities, right? You need intermediary indicators or process metrics that help you figure out, like, your progress. Are you really getting there? And when you set your targets, try to ask yourself, what is the baseline? What is the situation now? So that you can set a target against that baseline. And the target is a little bit arbitrary. It's just what you think you can achieve based on the conversations you've had and the resources you've had. So just try to set your most realistic target. Some people like to overestimate so that they can have really ambitious targets and get a lot of people on board. Other people try to underestimate so that they can kind of underpromise and overdeliver. Don't play those games. Just try to set the target that you actually are aiming to achieve. And that's the log frame. If you break it down into baby steps, it's pretty straightforward. But I also acknowledge that it takes practice and it's sometimes hard to get it right the first time. So in the next video, I'll go through some do's and don'ts of measuring the social change and setting your targets and objectives. And then we'll go through a case study and I'll try to share with you how you might fill out a log frame for that case study.